everyone, Chris Lamb here from Align. Uh, Today we have Jennifer Chavez as our guest. She was an OG aligner. She attended her very first conference back in 2017, Barnard College. Um, and yeah, so she's a friend of the organization, and yeah, and she has an awesome story. And yeah, so we're basically just shooting the breeze here for like 45 minutes today. So Jennifer, do you want to introduce yourself? Talk a little bit about who you are, where in your career you are right now, also geographically where you are right now, and yeah, we'll start with that.
All right. So thank you for the intro. Yes, I am a friend of Align and I have been for a while now. So like Chris said, my name is Jennifer and I am currently a senior research assistant at the University of Miami. Um, I'm in Miami, which seems like the epicenter of the pandemic sometimes. And I graduated about a year and a half ago with my MPH, a master's in public health. And since then, I've been working for the Center for Latino Health Research Opportunities as an associate, a research associate. And then part of my job is also as a project manager for the Precision Medicine and Health Disparities Collaborative, which is an alliance of 3 universities so it's Vanderbilt, Meharry Medical College in Miami, that kind of come together to work in health disparities and precision medicine. So in general, my work has to do with health disparities, particularly in Latino communities. What else can I say about myself? I know Chris and Crystal, his sister, because Crystal and I actually co-founded First Gen U, which was and continues to be a student organization for first generation students at the University of Miami. So thank you for having me.
That's an awesome intro. Yeah, yeah, Jennifer is a superstar because there's only so many people out there who who founded their college's first gen low income student group. Um, and once you found it, that's it. No one else can found it after you. So yeah, that you're a trailblazer, and actually, I want to get to that later. I sort of want to trace your path from present back, and so we'll probably end on that because yeah, I guess the format for this is I kind of want to get an idea of like how you got to where you are career wise, and also like what you do maybe on your day to day. And so that's sort of like from the perspective of somebody just leaving college or just leaving grad school, like like what is working life like what can I do with like a degree in public health or an undergrad degree in something similar to that, and then maybe later we can get to the like I'm a student right now, maybe I'm not there yet at considering my career, but I'm there right now at considering like starting an organization or helping lead my school's organization. So that's sort of like the roadmap for this 45 minutes or so. But starting in the present, um, actually, I'm curious because our a lot of students that I've talked to are interested in public health, and just like the health field in general. What do you do in your day-to-day job?
Okay, so, and I'm going to be completely honest here. I think it would show if I would lie, so I don't want to lie. I want to be completely genuine. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is I mostly do a lot of grant writing and a lot of manuscript writing. It's just what my role entails. So as a coordinator for the center, for one of the cores of the center, my job is basically to support any kind of initiatives that come from early career investigators, which means that people that have just gotten their PhD and they're ready to start their research career, I am in the background kind of maneuvering resources and things and putting them together, packaging them beautifully and making sure that they are as productive as they can be and like zip tying everything together so that they can be. Um, in general, like right now we're really busy. We're working on, I think, 4 or 5 manuscripts at once, and I'm involved in every facet of them. I'm writing them, I'm doing the analyses. There's a lot of group work in public health. You think that once you leave like graduate school, like people like me that were awkward and hated group projects because like I can't talk properly, um, and I'm socially awkward. You think it ends there, but it doesn't. So jokes on us, socially awkward butterflies. But no, there's a lot of exchange. One of the things that I love about my job is that even though I'm young in the field, so obviously I just got my master's, um, there is a lot of value in your lived experience. And I have gotten to sit at the table with public health giants that I read about in textbooks as an undergrad and in graduate school. But that all of a sudden, because I'm from a community that they don't know about, they want to hear from me and they value that. So for me, that's one of the most fulfilling parts of my job is that I get to work on things that will eventually impact my own community. And I live in a very like it's not rural anymore, but Homestead used to be very very rural. We're like 20 minutes away from the Everglades, so there are a lot of like rural medicine issues and public health issues that this center is trying to address, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Just like my job has taught me, I think what I love about my job has also taught me what I don't want to do in the future. Um, I,
Yeah.
I mean, I have to be honest. It's an introspective thing, but I realized that I don't like just sitting and writing papers. I want to be delivering interventions. That's not what my job entails. For some people, that as a research assistant, you might be asked to go out into the field, collect data. But for me, it's been more of a desk job in that the data has already been collected. Now I have to make sense of it. So that's something to consider if you're going into public health, because you may not always think that you're going to be seeing the change right away, which is something that when I graduated, like I was doe-eyed and I was like, oh, I'm going to change the world. I'm not. I'm not changing the world. I'm I'm writing papers that eventually might change the world, but for right now, I have a very small impact, and I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely felt that too. Because yeah, you come out of college or grad school with a lot of energy and hoping that I don't know, like personally my first year out of school in my job, I overcorrected. Like there were people in my office who like, the fashionable thing to do was to like um play up the malaise, just act malaise, act like yeah, like nothing's worth it, or like, what's the point? Um and they really lean hard on that. And like they were my mentors almost. Um like functionally they were my mentors. And so I like copied them. And yeah, I didn't like who I became. And it took me a while to realize that too. But yeah, I don't know, I guess law of averages, right? Something law of averages. Eventually you overcorrect, and then you overcorrect the other way, and then eventually you get to the point where you can maybe make some kind of difference, hopefully. Um, what so where do you hope um, to make a difference? Like I'm getting the idea. Like, you want to be a practitioner of something.
Yes, so I'm in the process, right? I'm in the process of applying to medical school, um, and I got my degree in so my undergraduate degree is in microbiology and immunology, and my master's, I said, is in public health. And it was right around my junior year where I realized that I took my first public health class, and I absolutely loved my professor. She, and this sounds cliche to say it, every person in public health probably says this, but she kind of was talking to us about how your zip code can determine your life expectancy, or it's a very big factor. And to me, that was just astounding because I thought, wow, you could live the healthiest life, but living in this zip code versus living in a zip code right across the street, or obviously not across the street, but like living in, 20 minutes away could
Mhm.
dramatically impact how long you live. So I thought, if medicine is not addressing this, if we're not actually doing something in this, then I have to follow a discipline that is actually trying to address this. And I still want to do medicine, but for me, it was important to become the type of doctor that isn't just like, here's a prescription, have a nice day.
Right.
It's been really important to me to eventually become a practitioner that considers all of these social determinants of health and realizes that a person is more than just like a couple of health decisions. They're more so
Yeah.
they're products of their environment. And so I, right now, what I'm doing is kind of preparing me in a way for going into medical school, just because I get to see firsthand what these health disparities are doing in health. And I get to work with doctors also are like-minded and may not have a background in public health, but are seeking it because this is how they want to treat communities. So that's how I kind of ended up here.
That's super important. Yeah. I know we are, facing kind of, uh, we're facing many crises right now, but one of them, one of the longer term ones is
Mm-hmm.
like a crisis in personnel, right? Like
Right.
in doctors, you hear a lot about nurses, but also doctors, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Absolutely.
what do you think can be done in the pre-med to like med school pipeline to address that? It seems like everybody's been, like kind of talking about it, but like that's it, like nothing is happening. Like what would you do?
Well, I guess this is like where we could kind of start talking a little bit about like my journey
Yeah.
getting to medical school. So truthfully, so this is my second time applying. I didn't get in the first time. There are a number of reasons why, and I'll kind of brush over them. So for as long as I can remember, and again, a very cliche thing to say, I've always known I wanted to go into medicine, uh, and I always knew that I was going to go to college. I never knew how, but I definitely knew I was going to go.
Yeah.
So it was, and I tell the story all the time, but like I figured out how to go to college through like Yahoo Answers. Like I was like, how do you fill out the Common App? Well, I Yahoo answered it. And a lot of people like tell me like that's embarrassing and like whatever. And at first I felt embarrassed, but it's part of my story and people need to know that it's okay to be confused and not know things.
People should not be putting disrespect on
So
Yahoo
anyway,
Answers either.
exactly, you get really useful information from
Yeah.
there. So anyway, I got into undergraduate as a biochem major. And if you ask me why I chose biochem, it was because I heard that you can't choose biology or just chemistry because it's not accepted. So I was like, I'll choose both. And I thought biochemistry. It was like less than a semester had gone by, and I realized I really hated biochem. Um, and what I really wanted to do was bacteria. So I switched over to microbiology and immunology. And in doing so, I found something that I really, really loved because I love bacteria, I love viruses. Like this pandemic has been really interesting just from my micro background and my public health background.
Right.
So um, I think, I guess, in going back to like what's going on with the medical school and pre-med and things like that. So I entered as pre-med, and being first gen, being low income, and being pre-med are often three things that are often like not supposed to go together. It's kind of like if you put a picture together and you were like, one of these does not belong, it would definitely be it, right? And I also joke all the time that the harsh reality of going to college, even though I'm a Miami native, was really shocking. I leaving high school, I was a straight A student. I was a valedictorian. I got to college, and all of a sudden, everything plummeted. Nothing was straightforward to me. Biology that I excelled at was all of a sudden really hard. Chemistry was bad. Like I found no room to like come up for air, and I felt like I was drowning. And I met with an advisor earlier on, and I was like, well, what what can I do? And mind you, at the same time, I also went through a couple of health situations that were making me like unable to go to class, making me very sick. So it was a difficult situation, in addition to the fact that I have no idea about college. I am worried about how I'm going to pay for college because I went into a private institution that kind of gave me some scholarships but didn't cover me full.
Hmm.
Um, so I spoke to him, and the first thing he said to me was, "Okay, well, what's your GPA?" And my GPA was extremely low at the time, but it was my first semester. So here I am, still very doe eyed, and said, "Oh, it's such and such." And he said, "Oh, honey, you can't go to medical school. You need to find something else with your major that's rewarding for you." And he said, when I told him, because at that point, I was in the process of being diagnosed with a chronic illness, and he kind of said to me, "Well, don't you think that's a sign that you shouldn't become a doctor?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Really? Really?" Um, so he said that, and obviously I even asked, I was like, "Well, can I still be like a PhD? I still like research. Can I go into research?" And he said no. And I will never forget, he gave me a sticky note with a website to like health careers for my major. And he said, "Here, just look it up." And I have to tell you, that's been probably one of the most earth shattering experiences for me. Going in there like a little bit wounded because, you want to succeed in college as a first gen student, you're self made. You
Yeah.
think that you have that pressure of everybody is relying on you, like thinking that you're the first one in your family, you need to trek a good path, and here you are failing, and then just to hear that being thrown in your face, it was like I felt like the world was crumbling in front of me. And thankfully, um, I kind of left the room, called my mom, cried for a while, and she said, "You strap your boots and you keep going. You're going to get there somehow." And that story is obviously unique to me, but I know of several pre-med students that just have faced the harshest advisors, have faced the harshest of conditions, and there is little to no support for them. And I think that for a lot of people, that would be enough to make them drop out.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't have excellent grades, maybe you don't have like stellar parents who are doctors and you come from a lineage of doctors like me. My mom is a humble manager at a restaurant. So we're a very humble, we're from very humble beginnings, but that discouragement really, really deprives the system of amazing doctors that have heart and that are really doing it for like the sake of being and helping people heal.
It's it's one thing to like, yeah, these people are gatekeepers, and I'm pretty sure they are aware of their positions as gatekeepers. And as a first semester freshman, like to be not even given a chance, that's, I mean, his salary should go to your mom because your mom did a better job doing his job.
Agreed, agreed. And it's like I said, for a lot of people, it would be enough. And it's happened. And it would have been enough for me if my mom, if I hadn't had that social support. It wasn't just my mom, it was Crystal that Crystal was amazing. I had Michaela. Like I had friends around me that were like, don't listen to him. Like obviously it's a reality check. Like I have to get my grades together. I have to, make up for it in some way. But that doesn't preclude me from getting there. I can get there. It's just going to be a little bit harder. Um, so his advice, uh, I guess, was wrong because I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could have at least said, this is what you should do, rather than turn you away with a sticky note to a website.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're not the only one either. Like, if he did it to you, he probably did it to other people. And if he's there, then other people like him are there too in other schools or maybe also at Okay,
Yeah,
so
and that's the thing. Like
no, go ahead.
I think in pre-med situations, there's a lot of toxicity. Like we create a toxic environment in that we allow, like one of the first things that we were told was in one of these assemblies, like look to your left and look to your right. One of you is not going to be here. So who's it going to be? And you kind of figure out, you try to think and reason, like, is it going to be me? Like, should
Why
I?
would I say
And then
that?
it becomes a dog eat dog world, like you think that you have to step on people to make it to where you want to be. And that's just not, I don't know. To me, it's not healthy, but that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like your answer to my question is basically a complete revamping of the culture of pre-med. Uh,
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do, and just there are so many disparities with students that don't have access to like MCAT materials or that, and that's like a whole other conversation. But it, making leveling the playing field or promoting equity rather than just equality is really what needs to be done in this pre-med medical school type situation.
yeah. Damn. I don't think I've heard of a field as toxic as that. At least in school. Like so like yeah, pre-med. You always hear like it's rough because of the academics, and you also do hear like it's rough because everything's on a curve, so you're competing against your peers. But it's when administrators or staff like actively work to make life worse for students in a non-productive manner. Uh, that's unnecessary and counterproductive
I agree. Yep,
to fixing the lack of doctors in America.
exactly.
Yeah.
And lacking doctors of color or
Yeah.
doctors from low income backgrounds
Yeah.
because we're bound to
Doctors
fall in
representative
some of these
of,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of, um, you know, how can people in power do better? Uh, so outside of pre-med, um, what ideas do you have as somebody who started? I guess now we can sort of like slide even more to the past, like somebody who started, um, you know, a, a student organization around that. Um, what would you like to see schools do better at?
So I guess it's fair to say that before we started this group, so before we started first gen at UM, um, there were no conversations around um, like first gen diversity and the first gen narrative. And what I would say is that I didn't know about being first gen. I just thought like I was having trouble because I was stupid or because I don't know, I was lacking in some sense. And I think that the first step that I'd like colleges to take is to include first gen as a diversity um, topic, because we, just like we see other topics being discussed in diversity, um, first gens are also facing a lot of things. Um, and what I mean by that is that you get like a compilation of issues that can affect a student, and it all unfortunately begins with being first gen. And I'll quickly tell the story. Like Crystal and I became lab partners, and she, I would just, we would go to lunch and we'd talk about just really, really stupid things that we were going through, things that are part of the first gen narrative, not knowing how to talk to professors or being afraid to talk to them because we thought that, they were sacred, or relating to other people because we were low income versus other people, they had an all expense paid uh, scholarship to UM and stuff. And I tell this joke often, but it's true. Like, and not to copyright Katy Perry, but like I felt like a plastic bag among like Michael Kors, Balenciagas, and Coaches. I was just there, you know, and I just felt very blessed to be at an institution like that. But I was struggling, and so was Crystal and Kayla and Kayla, which were and other two founders of First Gen. And we realized that every time we talked about it with someone new and they happened to be first gen, they had these same issues. And I think the biggest issue with being first gen in some places is that you think that you're alone, or you think that you're the only one that's struggling because it's a character defect.
Right.
When in reality, it's a shared narrative, it's a shared experience. So I think my advice would be to find that network. And it takes a lot of like finding, talking to people, kind of feeling people out, and also being aware of what resources are at your school. Like until we started the first gen conversation, we had no idea that our school's diversity, office had like a textbook loan program. We had no idea that they had certain things in place where we as first gen could benefit from it. So yeah, I think the first step is finding your network, and second is knowing what your school offers to help you.
That answers a question I was going to ask next, which is just in general, like what advice would you give to your younger self? Do you have any other advice that you give to the younger, like mid undergrad version of yourself?
Like my first piece of advice is to just do it and to not be as afraid. It's normal to feel intimidated. It's normal, especially like for me, college was like the first time I had slept over in a place that was not my own. So it was like a big culture shock, and people are afraid constantly. But first piece of advice, just the worst thing that someone could possibly say when you ask a question is no. And that no won't change your life. I mean, it could, but probably won't. Failure is the second one. Is failure is bound to happen, so just get used to it. People are going to tell you you can't do something. People are going to tell you you're terrible at what you do. You can't do it because you're sick. You aren't cut out to be here, but there's a reason why you're there, and you can definitely achieve what you need to. So get used to failure, feel comfortable in it, have a drink, be happy because failure is going to happen. And then I think the third would be that you need to find something that brings you comfort. Um, I am not condoning food or any type of addiction. I'm just saying, find, to me, as a first gen, it was super important to have a support network. It was important for me to be able to reach out to somebody and say, I'm struggling and I need you right now. Because there were so many times in my freshman year where I was just like, okay, that's it, I'm done. Like, I should have just gone into the workforce. I should have just been able to help my family straight from high school. Look at all the people in my neighborhood that have gone on, have really high paying careers. And look at me in college, just amounting debt for my family when I could be just helping them. The point is, find people that are like minded and that will help pull you from like the cliff right before you're going to go over it. And that for me was just a series of friends and my mom and my faith. So find it and urgently let it be a priority for you, because there are so many people that are going to push you down. You just need a couple to like bring you back to yourself and bring you back to earth.
Yeah, I think these are applicable to not just like a mid undergrad student, but also somebody about to graduate undergrad, somebody who's like in grad school, about to graduate grad school, out of grad school. I yeah, I'm feeling the fear of failure now. I um, yeah, I catch myself like not wanting to speak up in class. I'm in grad school now, and so um, yeah, and it's an adjustment because I haven't been in school in a few years. So yeah, I catch myself like, staying quiet and like trying not to say anything because I'm afraid I'm gonna be wrong. And often when I do speak up, I am wrong. And so trying hard not to let that stop me from speaking up the next time. That's been a struggle. And you know, I'm 27 now. So like, yeah, it's there's a universality to that, for sure. Um, so okay, we are coming up on time, so I want to close off with two final questions. One is, um, so one is a spin-off of the last question. We are in COVID times, and that makes education very different for a lot of people. Um, so, what has helped you get through um, education by Zoom, um, or work by Zoom? Because you are out of grad school now, but um, in many ways they are the same.
Right. And I've been studying for my MCAT, or I
Right?
studied
Yeah.
for my MCAT right at the beginning of the pandemic. So it's not very far removed. So it's hard. It's hard to separate the line of like school and home, because that's why we travel to school and that's why we travel to work, right? Because there has to be a separation. Like, what you do at work stays at work, what you bring home, you bring home and you rest, and this is your place. I think the biggest piece of advice is finding somewhere to disconnect. And I know that sounds, again,
Mm.
really cliche, but it's so important to just, if your thing and my thing is eating ice cream sandwiches and watching some videos on YouTube, you do that. Because, like, I've heard it a lot. The work and studying and your homework is still going to be there if you take 10 minutes for yourself. I'm not saying just blow off all of your responsibilities, don't care about anything, but just take 10 minutes to remember why you're doing what you're doing, and then, relax, let it go, and then come back to it. And I can assure you, part of you will be still burnt out, because I feel it, but part of you will also feel even the slightest bit more encouraged to keep going. And I know that it's really, really tough in terms of like not being able to physically connect with people, especially students, because I feel like we all tend to get into a classroom and just say, dang it, I hate this professor. And that is missing. So you have to kind of be annoyed with yourself. So just, again, take time for yourself and also try to find a community. Like if you're new, it's a little bit harder,
Yeah.
but if you're established, definitely reach out to your friends. I'm always happy to talk. So please reach out to me.
Oh, yeah. Would you be down to share your I guess any way to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. Is it something that like I should say now or link something?
Uh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good point. I'll just link it later.
Okay. No, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, thanks. And okay, so last question, which is we ended our last two interviews like this. Um, so what does first generation mean to you?
Wow. Here's the thing. First gens, I feel, or from my perspective, I never really realized what being first gen really means. And it wasn't until like I started coming up with activities for medical school and like trying to justify like certain things that I realized like, dang, not to toot my own horn, but I've accomplished something. And to me, being first gen is what you the word that you used like at the beginning of this. It's being a pioneer, it's being a trailblazer. You're walking to a situation where nobody in your family has walked before. Maybe you don't they didn't have the resources. Like my mom, again, very humble beginnings, came to this country with like less than a high school education. And first gen never really became a thing until I got college and I realized that there were other people like me. So to me, being first gen means to be a trailblazer and being a proud trailblazer because you're the first, but it's like what they're saying about Kamala. You're the first, but you're not the last. And you're making that path and you're making it easier for other people. So that to me is the biggest inspiration, knowing that, yeah, you may have struggled, you may have shifted a little bit, things may have changed, but dang, look at you getting through college, getting through graduate school. You're first gen, you're a pioneer in what you do.
Man, I like that a lot. And look at you. Like I said, Jennifer Chavez, baller, shot caller. Like you, yeah,
No.
you've done a lot. For the first gen community, and a lot of it has been unrecognized. Um, and yeah, the path you've taken, it's been super hard, and here you are, still pushing. So yeah, I guess the equivalent of hire this woman is accept this woman to to med school. Uh, and yeah, thanks for your time. I think a lot of people are gonna resonate a lot with what you said.
Well, thank you for having me. And like I said, I'm always happy to talk. Um, and if there's one person that I could ever like influence or give advice to keep going, if you're waiting for a sign, this is your sign. Keep going. It's gonna get better.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.